Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Cardboard Hands. We are back again, episode 20 here with our co-host Retrospects. Just the two of us today. This will be kind of a fun one. Pokemon Worlds is upon us, though, and I really wanted to kind of get out and talk about that this weekend with Retro because there's a lot of stuff going on with Pokemon Worlds. So we're really going to dive into that during this podcast. But I also had a couple of other topics that I wanted to get into that maybe we can kind of, I don't want to say quick fire, but within like an hour and a half, maybe get through. But we wanted to talk about conventions a little bit more. I've been beating this a little bit dead with the stick lately because I've been doing so many conventions. But with Long Beach coming up, I do want to kind of talk a little bit more about live vending and conventions, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just, maybe go over a couple more things that I've been seeing because it's been really fun for me. I think it's definitely going to be a big thing for me in the future is doing like summertime conventions a lot more. And then to finish off, there's just so much in the air right now that is being said about live streaming platforms and like the scamming and like the resealing and like the uncertainty of all that whole situation that I did kind of wanted to talk a little bit or at least address some of that and maybe air out some of my concerns and thoughts just because like I was on the platform on mainly the platform in question right now being Whatnot, but it's really not just Whatnot's problem, it's across the whole hobby, and that's what I want to address is, do you think that live auction platforms are preying on the weak in this hobby? And so that's kind of a way, maybe we'll finish out with something a little spicier, but a little roadmap for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe my co-host here, Retro, because also he put out a really, really good video the other day, and it's really doing well. And you should definitely see his channel if you haven't. So hopefully we can convince him to do a little bit more. So maybe with a little big positive reinforcement, a couple likes, a couple subs. If you haven't already, he probably would put out more content. He puts out content, he just then takes it down right afterwards. He gets a phone call with eBay and he starts like buttoning up his top button and taking all his videos down and going to his Instagram and making sure his comment sections are good, and he starts banning people. It's bad, but we talk him down from that cliff and he unbans people, and we're here. So, and with that being said, that's a mouthful. It always is. Thank you so much for coming, Nick. How are you doing? Let's let you talk for a little bit here. Now that's all said and done.
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate the shout out. I'm gonna make a Beanie Babies video coming up pretty soon. There recently was a like an actual movie. What is that Beanie Baby cards?
Yeah, but they're first edition, so you're not getting those from me.
Oh, okay, of course, of course. Gotta hunt for the PSA 10s. But yeah, no, a movie just came out like actual because they had the documentary, which the Beanie Mania, that was really, really good. But this is an actual movie. Some of the facts, like, they've
There's a
exaggerated
movie
on,
about it.
huh?
They made the movie.
Yeah, it's like Zach Galifianakis, Elizabeth something. Anyway,
That
and then
sounds
the
exciting
red
right
haired
now.
chick from Succession. But it's really good. And I've been wanting to make a Beanie Babies video for a minute, so I'm gonna put something together here pretty soon. So
You
hopefully
made me
people
so
dig
happy
it.
by telling me that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but the Beanie Baby thing, that is exciting. So
Yeah, it's worth watching for sure. And then definitely, so Beanie Mania, which is the documentary, that's on HBO Max if people want to go watch it. And then the movie is on Apple Plus right now. I don't or Apple TV. I don't know if it's going to be on other streaming services or if it's just like an Apple exclusive, but that's where I watched it. So
I'll look into that because that sounds hilarious. But what else is new with you, man? Like I haven't talked to you in a couple weeks now. Since the last podcast, we usually keep pretty in touch, but I've been really busy, so I'm sure you have been too because I haven't heard anything from you. But what's been new? Like, what's good with Pokemon? What's good with like the business? I know you've been ramping up a lot on eBay. I haven't really been seeing much besides your Instagram posts, but I know you've been doing those, which they look really good. But what's new with you? Like, what's the lowdown?
yeah, I mean, I need to get with Instagram, I try to do every day. Some days I kind of miss it or whatever, but I need to get more consistent and just have things that I'm doing like every day, like clockwork. I have that with the business, but I need to be a lot more like organized with my time and more consistent so that I can, pump out content and build the business in that way for sure. But um right now, like I have a lot of stuff out at PSA, and I'm still sending, even though things are taking a little bit longer. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of in like a holding period right now. I have a lot of, I mean, I still have stuff to list, but I get anxious. Like, I don't know, man. I am not like, I know a lot of people get really excited when they have like a bunch of stuff. Like people like to take these big pictures of their like closets or whatever when they put sealed product together. And but dude, for some reason, raw cards, like when I have a bunch of raw ungradable cards, it gives me so much anxiety. Like I hate having like just like a ton of extra raw cards in the house. So I've just been like selling stuff on Facebook, selling stuff on auction, bulking out stuff. I got consigned like a collection through Dan a while back, and so I'm finally getting around to like some of the more niche stuff there, and been sorting that out, trying to sell some to like, you know, streamers and things like that at a bulk rate so I can get Dan paid. But yeah, man, just been working, and then, you know, like kind of looking maybe for like a finance position, more like traditional type job. So we'll see if we can get something cracking there. But yeah, need to do more shows. I know we're going to talk
Summer
about
of
that.
progress, baby.
Huh?
It's a summer of progress. You're doing great. Sounds like you're really you're looking forward here, which is kind of what I'm hearing from a lot of people. So
Yeah, there's still a lot of things I've been dropping the ball on for sure, and going to shows is one of them. I mean, I've been saying like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start going to local shows for like, I don't know, a year and a half now, and I feel like I still haven't really done it. I haven't made time for it. I haven't like set myself up to go do it, and I just keep seeing you and Flex like kill it at local shows, and I'm like, all right, man, this is the last straw. I need to get on this. So.
no, no, honestly though, we'll get into this with the conventions thing. Honestly though, what it really is just I miss interacting with people. Like I during the pandemic was I made this YouTube channel so that I could vent because like my fiance and I we collected together, like we liked Pokemon. She likes Pokemon. We play Pokemon Go together. She like collected Hidden Fates with me. But then like after that situation, it like kind of after our childhood binders, we put those together and sorted them through and kind of filled in some spaces. She found other things and moved on and found things that interested her. She still likes Pokemon and everything. She goes to the conventions and she likes it and enjoys it. But like I really kept on with it and really ran with it after that. And so like I needed during the pandemic to talk to someone and there was nobody. I couldn't even talk to my friends, right? So I went online and found the online groups and so I started the channel and then I wanted to start talking to other people who were maybe more passionate than me, you know, because I felt like I knew a lot of people that were very passionate, but not more passionate than me. But there are tons of them online, but in real life, it's hard to find those people, especially in the middle of a global like pandemic where everyone no one's allowed to see each other or anything, you know. So I did that and I started the channel. And honestly, it was great because I was streaming at the same time. I was interacting with the hobby in two different ways. But when I stopped streaming recently in February, like that was great the first couple of months because I felt like I was just like always just live, like streaming 3 to 5 times a week for hours on end. It just felt like forever. And I was never had privacy with that. And it's like I was always live streaming. So I didn't have this feeling, but like when I stopped live streaming, I got this feeling like I was getting bored, not with Pokemon, but not interacting with people. So like I miss the interactions that I would have been getting at my day-to-day 9 to 5 job, seeing real people in real life with my coworkers, or I miss the interactions I was getting with my stream, the people in my stream, which were like my real life kind of friends I'd see, not friends, but friends, you know, people you see regularly that you see because of like for my business, you know, because they're coming and buying from me, but they were also like trusted customers and I would see them regularly. I'd consider them to this point friends, you know. So it was like nice to have that interaction. So like when I cut off, I needed the interaction. And so the live shows is all I could get from it. And so yeah, that's why I did it. So like that's legitimately for me is the only reason why I started doing like in-person events is because it really helps me get that interaction that I so craved that I didn't realize I craved until I like lost that live streaming. So I
Yeah.
think, it's financially it's fine, but if you don't have shows just happening like all the time, I wouldn't blame you for not like doing it all the time. So I wouldn't beat yourself up for it or anything.
They have them like every 2 weeks, I want to say, in Washington. They're like hour-ish, hour and a half away from me, but they're pretty good. And there's definitely not as much Pokemon. It's definitely more sports oriented for sure. And I don't see a lot of Japanese Pokemon when I have gone. So I feel like, maybe it'd be interesting one time to like set up a table and see what happens. But I could definitely just go and walk around and um buy, trade, deal with the vendors, get to know people, network, stuff like that. I've been dropping the ball on that, and I've been wanting to get more into sports. So that would be the best way to do it for sure. So I can source some cards in person and pre-grade them and things like that.
Well, if you were doing sports, like I 100% recommend you got to go to the live shows, like the in-person events, because like I personally at these live conventions, and we're swapping it up, folks. We're swapping the order up. We're gonna talk about lives now because we're already kind of in the thick of it. But with these conventions, as far as I'm concerned, what I've seen in my local conventions, it's mostly sports. It's like 90%, and that's being pretty generous to the 10% that I'm giving to Pokemon. Like at the last show, there were about 100 tables. I only saw like 7 to 10 tables of Pokemon, maybe a little bit more. I made a video, so I made a walk around showing some videos, but there weren't a ton of Pokemon compared to sports. There were more lately than I was seeing in a couple of months ago, but that's just probably show by show. I wouldn't count that as being an uptick or downtick because sample size is too small. It could be just literally this show didn't have a lot. But most of the shows are sports. And I will say, if you're going to look into getting sports, there's so much dealing and so much wheeling and dealing that I see. People are just begging to sell stuff at these shows. Like, and a lot of people don't grade the sports people. They just kind of have like their cards in these like hard plastic like case things
One
in the case.
touches, yeah,
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 and
yeah,
maybe it's
yeah.
because they won't grade tens and they're just like, hey, it's an autograph, so you still want it, but it's like a patch, and so you can't put it in a sleeve. But just judging from like some of the sports guys' like reactions, also though, it's not as good as Pokemon. Like I have great shows. Like I watch the people around me and I see how they are, and I'm at the end of the show somewhat like, this isn't Collecticon, but it's still I'm happy it's a good show. I still sell things. But the people around me sometimes ask me the question after, because the vendors said, hey, how'd you do? How you when you're walking around towards the end talking to other vendors, they ask when a vendor asked me, did you break even? That's a bad sign from me. And a lot of the sports guys that I've seen that I've been around, a couple of them asked me that, and I've seen the sales be a little slower on some tables. Like, whereas I've had a couple people at my table, kids and families, and like, if you're there with your kid and you're walking around looking for sports, and your kid's like under 10 to 12 years old, there's a chance when they see Pokemon at the table, they're just gonna drag you by the hand. The kid's gonna drag you as an adult by the hand over to the table, and whether you like it or not, they're gonna make you stand there while they oogle at the Pokemon stuff. So I get the parents coming over to my table, even if there's not going to be like a purchase, which gives like the illusion of like there's something at the table that you want, even if there's not. Whereas there'll be a sports guy who I think who has like 3 or 4 or 5 tables down who has this super sick setup, like pops and these signed like signed helmets and jerseys and stuff. And there's just literally no one in front of the table. And I've just got the lamest setup in the world, and I've got like a family or whatever. And so I don't know. It just depends on like your vantage point. I personally don't think sports looks like it's doing as well right now from what I'm seeing at a lot. But then again, they wouldn't be having these shows, and there wouldn't be coming back and people going if they weren't doing well. And it's just different with sports too. Like the guy next to me, he's like, "Yeah, at the last show, I sold one single card." I was like, "One?" He's like, yeah, but it was like a $5,000 card. So I was happy with that. I packed up early and left after that. I was like, weird. Because like I don't have a single $5,000 card at my table. Like I got a bunch of $5 to $50 stuff, and maybe a couple $100 cards in the graded cases, and maybe I have a black label something in there, probably something worth over 1,000, but nothing crazy. So it's just a totally different scene. So maybe I'm misjudging it, I'm just thinking differently. Not a lot of buying goes on at these things, though. I find not a lot of it, at least for Pokemon, in my opinion.
If you watch like some of the sports card show content, at least at the bigger shows, like things are popping. I mean, like the national, this was like the biggest ever national from what I've heard. And I think it just depends on the show and also like what it's like a daily refinement thing. Like, are your items good items or are they just like cheap items, So it depends on what you're bringing. Sports is seasonal too, so like right now a lot of people, and I think even Flex was saying this too, but like right now people are buying football, right? Because everybody's like hyped on preseason and trying to speculate and buying quarterbacks and stuff like that. In baseball, I know like the Ellie De La Cruz dude is really popping right now, and Flex got a bunch of him, and a lot of people are really hyped on him right now. So it just depends, but I think one of the main things that's different from Pokemon to sports is in Pokemon, like so many different Pokemon are people's favorite Pokemon and have, fairly decent value. But in sports, it's not really like it's hyper concentrated on like the best dudes. You can still have your favorite player, but chances are if your favorite player isn't one of like the goats, you could probably pick up a nice auto of your favorite player for a reasonable price. And that's just kind of how it works. But sports also releases so many more products than Pokemon, right? Like Pokemon's releasing a new set every 2 to 3 months. I mean, sports is releasing stuff every month, and then there's different tiers. There's expensive boxes, there's cheap boxes, different hits come out of it's kind of convoluted, but sports is definitely still the biggest for sure. And there's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of, I mean, it's a lot easier to get to $5,000 on a sports card than it is on a Pokemon card. That could change, but at least right now, yeah. But sports also has numbered and things like that. So
Autographs and
yeah.
patches and the blood from their jersey that they spilled on the game that they won the Super Bowl in, and they put that on the card, and that's you got whatever it is. So
There is like
they
an
they do
element.
also bring a lot of autographs to these shows I've been to. So like each show has like a day or like one or two people per day that they'll bring in and do autographs. So locally we have a lot of like Warriors and Giants, and there's just sports players from sports teams that were in the area and they still stayed in the area. There were some people who've been to these shows I was at. I don't know who the people are. They're probably big people. I just don't know. Like you could one ear out the other. I know Steph Curry, but I don't know like the other Warriors. So
Yeah, that's another thing that, sports has that we don't is, I mean, it's a big deal if, I mean, people are going crazy doing all sorts of stuff they shouldn't be doing when an artist shows up. But in sports, at sports shows, like you were saying, a lot of like players, a lot of the time will come sign stuff. Grading companies grade at sports shows that they don't really do that as much at like a collecticon or anything like that, right? Like you can go theoretically get your card signed by whoever the dude is they're signing and then take it to Beckett, be like, yo, I just had him sign this, they're gonna authenticate, you know what I mean? And like you can have a slab the same day or overnight depending on if the show's like a whole weekend, what service level, things like that. But over time you would think that would gravitate towards TCG. There's just a lot more money in sports right now. I think it's like demographic too. Like there are a lot of older people in sports as well. I mean, there's kids at shows and stuff like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I would say there's a lot more old money in sports, and so that kind of, people with more disposable income drives prices up. That's just
dude,
how it
the
goes.
kids that I see at these conventions wearing their little jerseys that come up to the table, and I'm like, hey, you like Pokemon? They're like, nah, I'm just into sports. They're such little hustlers, bro. When a 10-year-old looking at my stuff and they're like, bro, this is kid stuff, and they're like going on looking for this. I feel like such a fool. Like, it's so funny to me. I'm like,
Yeah,
bro,
dude, they're little gangsters. They're not stupid. Like I said, you watch some of these sports blogs and like kids are hustling, grown men for big cards and kids are grading $1,000 cards and stuff like that. It's nuts. I mean, my barber's kids are they're kind of into Pokemon, a little bit into Marvel, but sports is definitely like the main thing that they're into. And same thing, they're super hustlers. They know how to check 130 point. They know how to negotiate. Um, I wish I did more of that as a kid. Like I didn't really grow up in an area where there was a bunch of like local card shops or shows, so we
This
had to
is all we
travel.
had. Like,
Yeah, we had to travel to like the Tacoma Mall. I remember there was a card store in there, and I remember like Raigeki, which I know you hate Yu-Gi-Oh, but that was like a really strong playable card at the time. And it was like $30, which back then was like, oh my God, that's so expensive. But yeah, I wasn't going to like these big shows that I see a lot of these kids at, just like wheeling and dealing. I don't know if that's just from social media being so prevalent now that kids can watch YouTube. We didn't have that when we were kids. A bunch of YouTube creators showing us, hey, check out these cards I pulled and things like that. So maybe that's part of it, but it definitely seems to be, more accessible now for people at a younger age, than it was when I was a kid. And it's wild to see. Like it's just when I was that age, I wasn't flipping $1,000 cards, $5,000 cards, like thinking about being a hustler. I was probably playing N64, riding my bike, doing whatever. So it's crazy to see these kids at such a young age learning these entrepreneurial skills and learning how to do business and building networks and stuff. These kids are probably, some of these kids will probably grow up to be like the next Rusty or whatever, man, if they stick with it. So, um,
it
yeah,
is, I feel like that is the case, but now that you say it, I think back onto my time on the playground playing. I wasn't a rich kid. I think it's obvious. Like, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. It's fine. Like, it wasn't, I didn't grow up like dirt poor or anything, but I didn't get Pokemon cards all the time. I was lucky enough to be an only child for most of my life until I was like 12 or 13. So I did get Pokemon cards once in a while, but it was like a once a week, once a month kind of when I was good or got a good grade. It was that kind of thing. So I had to trade, and I love Pokemon. Like, I love Pokemon cards. I played the game. I was into like the trading card game competitively. I got the badges, like all the promos from playing and getting the points and whatever. So I had to trade and I had to hustle for my cards to get the cards I needed. So like I always understood the nature of like buying and selling, not selling for money as much as like straight trading. Because like we would do this thing as a kid where you're not trading for money, but you assign value to the cards to get equal value. So you make like a stack of like 5 cards, you build up to like $20 of value in like 5 cards, and then they get your binder out and they take like $20 of value out and you put it next to each other and you make the trade, the swap, and that's how it would work. And so like that teaches you, it lays down the fundamentals of like trading up. And sometimes the thing is you could get the kid to value his $2 or $3 card at $1, or his $5 card at $2, or his $10 card at $7, or his $30 card at $10, or whatever it is. You can trade up and build up in value by doing those big bulk deals. So like that was instilled into me really early on in the card shop. Like maybe not at a convention, but I had a local card shop growing up. So like I was really cool with the owners, and they had all their cards in the case, and they would always let you trade in your cards for like a percentage, just like it is now. So, you could trade in your $15 card and get like $10 value out of it or something like that, and they'll put it in their case for $15. Then you can get something for store credit. And so like I would do that a lot. And like so these things I think were sort of instilled in some kids, but it's certainly not to the point what it is now. Because yeah, I've gotten hustled by some kids. I'll be guilty. I can say I'm guilty of that. Like they're sometimes you just don't suspect it. They're coming up. They're like, "Hey, I'm trying to do a trade up challenge." You're like, "All right, cool. What do you value that at?" And they're like, $100, and you're like, all right, for sure, whatever." And then you do the thing, and then you look it up, you're like, "Bro, that's like $20, you little ah." And then they're like walking away, skipping away. You're like, So yeah, the kids are learning. They're learning. But you do love to see it. Honestly, you love to see it. So that's what I think that to me, even though I do see it in sports, I see a lot of kids and stuff at these conventions. Like they do like sports a lot. Kids still love sports. Like who was it talking about? It was a podcast, a Pokemon podcast recently, was talking about like kids aren't into sports as much as they used to be, I think. I'm
Oh, I
sorry.
think
I
that was
watched
a podcast I was on with that guy Steve and Nostalgianomics maybe.
It probably was. So yeah, I watched so many. I hope it was because like I that was a good podcast too, but I only watched parts of that. So it's funny if I'm highlighting the one part that I saw, right? But the I feel like that's not entirely true because I think a lot of kids still like sports, like just from what I see at these events. But a lot of kids like Pokemon too. So it's like a split thing. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think they can be together with each other, and kids can like sports and Pokemon. You know, these things they don't intersect. You know, they can overlap without intersecting.
Yeah,
Um,
I like both, man. I was playing Pokemon Coliseum on the same GameCube I was playing Madden on, and NBA Street and NFL Street and all that stuff. So I was definitely pretty heavy into both for sure.
yeah, and I played baseball. I played soccer. I was really into soccer before like moved to Oklahoma, and then all the kids locally are like, "You gotta play football. Football is what you play. Soccer's what what the California kids play because I was from California." And I was like, okay. And so I played football and then I wrestled. Like I did all the sports, basketball too. I didn't really care for basketball that much because I was no good at it. It was fun to play horse and shoot around the hoops with your friends, but I was never good at basketball. I was pretty good at soccer. I was pretty good at football. I was pretty good at sports. So I liked sports, but I was way more into like nerdy stuff. And like I did feel like back then it was a little bit more of like there was a separation than there is probably now. I think it's cooler to like that kind of stuff now, which is great. I don't know how it is as a kid. Like, I don't know if you would be like, let's just say, I don't know if you'd be the most popular kid in school if you're slinging playing Pokemon cards at lunchtime in high school, even in today's day and age. So that's probably still the same, but I think it's still kind of okay, to like that kind of thing now. Like anime is cool.
Yeah, I remember there were kids that played like Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic and stuff at lunch, and I think at the time I was probably just trying to be, like, oh, I'm so cool or whatever, but I don't know, deep down I was probably like, man, like I wish I still played Yu-Gi-Oh or something.
Yeah, it'd be like, what you got there? Like,
Yeah,
no, 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 I don't want. Never mind. No, it's cool. It's cool. Don't say they be explaining like, no, no, never mind. I don't want to see that.
I think in high school people like that's when people got more about like trying to be cool or whatever. But when I was playing sports, like all my friends that I was on teams with, like when we would hang out together after games or whatever,
Oh
we would
yeah,
do nerdy stuff. Like we'd play video games and
Super
trade
Smash
Pokemon
Brothers,
cards.
bro. We would play Super Smash Brothers after those. That was like
Oh
the
yeah, 100%,
thing.
100%. So it's I don't know, like we definitely did both.
Yeah.
It just yeah, I don't know, like cards. Yeah, I mean, I didn't, like I didn't get a lot of cards when I was growing up either. I remember having a binder, but like half of it was energies, and so it wasn't like something that was like super prevalent in my life. I really liked it. We had family friends from Japan, so just Japanese culture and anime and things like that were always martial arts. Like my mom is a martial artist and I did a lot of martial arts growing up. So just Japanese culture in general was something that was always like very close to my heart. But collecting cards, playing cards, like looking back, because obviously I'm having fun now, I wish I would have had spaces to be able to do more of that. And obviously, like, wish I would have held my childhood binder and things like that because of the value and stuff like that. But yeah, like it wasn't like a huge prevalent part of my life. But I think it's cool to see it be a big part of kids' lives now because it can teach them a lot of things early on, so that by the time they get older, maybe they can do it as a business, or at least like they've learned business skills by doing this kind of stuff as a kid. Um, yeah, I definitely didn't have that sort of like education about business in a fun way really as a kid. So and cards I feel like is a great gateway drug into business and finance. So
And there's so much more that they can do with it as well, too. Like once they're just into like the collecting part, they can start playing it. And like Pokemon Worlds is going on right now, like TCG. The video game championships, I think, are happening at the same time too at Worlds. I'm
I
not entirely sure.
Yeah, I think I think when you do worlds, it's like all of it at once, right? Because there's the
Pokemon Go as well. Yeah, because
yeah,
I
there's
know
like
Go is
Pokemon
happening.
Go, there's like another one. It's like
Unite,
a
the game, the one on the phone, Pokemon Unite, right?
yeah, but maybe, but there's like a fight. Isn't there like a fighting game?
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dokkan Battle or something like
Pokken.
oh, Pokemon. Okay, yeah. So there's that. Then yeah, obviously the TCG, and then I think video game. And I'm not sure how video game works, but I imagine it's just whatever the new game is out at the time. That's what you have to play on, and then whatever Pokemon you can get on.
Yeah, so
I don't
it's
know.
it's it's versus. So you have a team. I think it's either a team of three or six, but I think the video game's six, and Pokemon Go is three. But you still have a team of six, but you choose three. It's weird. Pokemon Go is different.
But can you
Uh,
only choose Pokemon that are from that game? Like if it's
there's a meta. There's like a meta. There's like an allowance of Pokemon that are allowed on the new games. Yes. So like in the you play the newest game that comes out in these tournaments. This is I know this. And then you're allowed the full unless there's like banned Pokemon that I'm not aware of. But I think you're allowed the full allowance of Pokemon, which is whatever is within the rules, but of the newest game, yes. They're not going back and running like Pokemon Fire Red Leaf Green like Game Boy Advance tournaments.
no, 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 I know, but I
You
mean
can
like
play.
if so if a certain Pokemon isn't in Scarlet and Violet, because isn't there like something called like Pokemon Home where you can like store Pokemon and then like transfer them in between games if the game doesn't have that
Right,
Pokemon
but
in it or
some
something?
games don't allow certain Pokemon. Like I think it's what you're. I think we're saying the same thing, kind of. We're just kind of
Oh, you're saying that even if you can't get it in the game, certain Pokemon aren't allowed from other games as well. Okay.
yes. So like even if it's not in Scarlet and Violet, you can still get. I think you can still get Pokemon not from Scarlet and Violet into the game, but it has to be programmed into the game.
Got you.
Like in
Okay.
Sword and
Yeah,
Shield, one of the big things that people didn't like when the game first came out, I believe, and someone in the chat correct me if I'm wrong, but they left out a lot of the original Pokemon out of the Sword and Shield block initially, so that people couldn't use a lot of the Kanto Pokemon, and people were really butthurt about that, and like so that was like a big deal. And I think that in this one it's a little bit better. I think they allow a lot more, but there's always Pokemon that you just kind of can't use within because I think there's like 1,000 Pokemon or whatever. And I don't know if it's like limitations within the animations or limitations within like the gameplay or the balancing. I don't know where that like logic or if they just want certain Pokemon to be more popular and other ones to kind of fade off and so that people focus on certain ones because you can only have so many water types and there's a million water types. Like there's literally so many water types. But so like yeah, maybe they limit things for some other reasons, but I think there is a limitation based on what the game itself can handle. So it's not every Pokemon ever. It is like you said, the current game, whatever its parameters are. But I don't think it's just limited to like just the Scarlet and Violet Pokemon though. Like you could probably use Charizard and like Dragonite, and other popular ones, I
yeah.
think
I think.
legendaries are always banned though, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, very much about the competitive side of it. I think it's cool, but it's not. I don't know. It's probably not something that I would watch or be too interested in.
I've been watching it lately because I've been playing the TCG a little bit.
Okay.
I had so many code cards, I sold off a bunch, but the person that I was selling the codes to was like, I don't need any more. And I didn't feel like looking for any more. And I was playing Diablo and just killing some time, playing some games, trying to try some different things other than Pokemon. And I just really wanted to play a trading card game for some reason. So I was like, why am I fighting against Pokemon? Why don't I just try Pokemon? I used to play it when I was a kid. I played it again when I got back into the hobby, like around Hidden Fates, GX tag team era. I remember like Reshiram and Pikarom were big, and like it's just I decided to dive back into it, and it's really fun. Like I still love trading card games, and Pokemon's a little more simplistic because you play everything on your turn. It's not like Magic Gathering or other games where you like pass priority and it's back and forth, and the opponent responds. So like you really just like sit back and like when you play your turn out, you just play your hand out. You sit back and just like, all right, do your worst, buddy. And that's kind of how it goes with Pokemon. So it's sort of relaxing and fun, but I mean, there is definitely some fun to be had in the video games. I think in the trading card. I'm sure Pokemon Go is really fun still. I used to play that a lot. I'm sure a lot of people, some people, a couple people still play that. And then like Pokken or Pokken, butchering the name. That's I completely forgot about that. I heard that's a good game. Like I heard it's really good. So I don't know which one of these. This is a great segue though, talking about into worlds. So like that's kind of what we'll use this as the segue into talking about worlds. I've sort of said what I needed to say about shows for the most part, but as far as Pokemon Worlds that's going on right now, it's happening in Yokohama, Japan, and we have a lot of friends that are over there, at least a few friends that are over there, and it's kind of cool to see all that. So, like always with these World tournaments, it is that time where everyone's posting pictures on Instagram, and I'm feeling FOMO, and I'm probably gonna go eat tempura tonight or something because everyone is just like making me feel that way. And but yeah, how's the whole world situation going for you? You watching it unfold? Like I do want there's a couple specific things I'm watching unfold, but like what are you watching about it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is, I don't know, it's tough. I've never been to Japan before, so I don't know, it's kind of a bummer, but I don't know if I would want my first trip to Japan to be kind of like this overwhelming, like super hype experience. I think I would kind of like to enjoy stuff or whatever. But I am definitely bummed. I'm sure Japan is showing out, you know, even just looking at the products they've been releasing and the different promo cards, but just the different merch and stuff, like the art on it is very specifically Japanese, you know, like on the EX decks, the front of them, Pikachu's like eating out of a ramen bowl and things like that. And um yeah, so I'm glad that it's this sort of like huge cultural moment, and I, you know, am glad that people are getting to experience that. I'll probably have to watch some, you know, recaps back on YouTube to sort of see all the different like events and shows and things that were going on. Um, but it's funny, man, that like all these worlds have always been in the United States, and this is like the first time in Japan in like, you know, 25, 26 years or something like that. That's kind of nuts
So
to
is
think
that
about.
the number? Because that's what I wanted to ask you, because this is the first time in a
Yeah,
really long time. That's
I
what's
don't
such
think
a
they've
big
had
deal.
it in Japan, right, since like the original three like chunky Pikachu trophies, whatever tournament that was. I'm pretty sure that was the only other time they ever had it in Japan. I know they had like the tropical mega battle in Hawaii and stuff like that, but it's like always in, you know, it's like Vancouver and Kentucky or whatever. Like you know, I
It
think
was
they
in
did like,
London last year,
yeah,
so
they
like
did
that was.
London, but like London over Japan, I don't know. Maybe Japan just needed time to prepare, and I know they're bringing in like a lot of UK people. Like I think they're opening a Pokemon Center in the UK or something like that too. So that makes sense, but it makes sense to have it in Japan more often than it has been. You know, maybe not
Oh
like
yeah,
every
for
year,
sure.
but like every 5 years at least or something.
You would think it would be every other year, you know? You'd think they'd have it in Japan like once and then over in the West another year, you know, the East, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
Japan
maybe
one
I'm just
year and
biased because, you know, I love Japanese Pokemon the most, but yeah, it's cool, man, and I'm sure people are having a great time. I like the new cards, the new promo cards, the Paradise Resort.
so that's
Um,
something that's different this time is they're not doing a Champions Festival. It's called the Paradise Resort. And so everyone who's getting those little I might do a little editing, I might not, so don't get mad at me if I don't. But the little packets that are given out that's different about them this year that was new to last year's as well. The other worlds packs in the past, like I think in 18 and before, because we didn't get a 19 one, right? Or a 2020.
we got 19, but we didn't get
Okay,
2020
so there
or
is a
21.
19, but there's not a
Yeah.
2020. But the ones in London, they included Chinese cards, which is different because the previous ones didn't. So you got an extra
They
card, which is really
yeah,
cool.
they included like Chinese, Indonesian, and Thai,
Oh,
I
so
think.
you got three extra cards, and I thought
Yeah,
I did hear about the Indonesian one. I forgot about that. You're
yeah,
right.
Chinese, Indonesian, and Thai, I think are the three extra ones they added. And then there's Korean, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, German, French, English, and Japanese, and then like one other one I'm missing. But yeah, they added a few new languages in the 22 packs, and so they're doing that again in the Paradise Resort packs, which is cool, right? I mean, it means there's more player bases in these new countries, and then more people are getting in. I mean, if those packs ever got up to like 15 cards, I mean, that would just be like kind of an indicator of the growth of the hobby, right? So it's cool to see that more countries are getting included. And I know they've been printing like Indonesian cards more now, and Korean cards and stuff too. And people are starting to buy those booster boxes because they're a cheaper alternative. So, things seem to be heading in the right direction as far as globally goes.
Yeah, I had one of my CSR like cards that I sent in. I thought it was Japanese and I was putting it into PSA. I put it as the Japanese card or whatever. It's actually Thai. It was in Thai. And so I didn't somehow miss it putting it in. And I noticed that on one of my PSA orders. So I'm getting more of these like cards that, the cards that I didn't recognize slipping through the system than I had before. You're just seeing more of them. I bought a Chinese Rayquaza, Hidden Fates shiny Rayquaza. I got a PSA one of those come to my table at one of my local shows recently, and I bought that because it was super cool. And I love Hidden Fates. So yeah, it's like it's kind of crazy. Speaking of those promo packs, though, do you remember what they were going for in the London worlds? The promo packs right out the gate, what people were paying for them and
Mm,
reselling them for the little packs with the cards.
yeah, I want to say it was like mm, maybe like 1,200 or something, I want to
I
say.
feel like I saw it at around that price or more. I thought I saw 1,500 or even close to 2,000 very shortly. Like shortly after when it got onto eBay, I think it hit that 2,000 mark.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean they got expensive probably over the last like 6 months because all the Champions Festival stuff in general just kind of shot up, and now a lot of that stuff has kind of come down in value just because so many people I think were doing it, and supply just kind of slammed the market. But yeah, those definitely got it. It's not even so much I've noticed like because I've rarely seen 2015 packs, but if you look at like what the 2015, or I shouldn't say rarely, but they come up less than like 18, 19, and 22 in my experience. But when you look at the price difference between 2015 the Japanese PSA 10 versus like the 2019 or the 18 or whatever, it's like it's not that much more, even though way less people were obviously at the 2015 worlds than were at even the 2019 worlds. So people more tend to gravitate towards the art, it seems like 2016 is it's probably the most expensive one
that's the San
because
Francisco one, right?
yeah, I think so, but it
Oh,
has, all the Kanto starters on it, and so people love that one. So that one's almost like double the price of the rest of them. And
I
then,
love that one, and I don't even like those cards. And I like
yeah,
that one because I'm from the area. Like,
it's a good art. It's a good art. And then 2019 is really popular too because it has Eevee on it. It's
oh
Pikachu
yeah, that's a good one
Eevee.
because Eevee. I remember that one
Yeah.
too. You're right. The art is what gravitates people towards them because I know that without knowing anything about them because that's what gravitates me towards them. So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, so people definitely seem to pay more for the ones that have the better art. Like 2018 is I would say it's even harder to find 2018 than like 2019, and but 2018 has like Oricorio and a bunch of other random Pokemon that people don't really care about as much. I mean, they've all got Pikachu on them, but yeah, just not quite as popular. So, uh, but
You like
yeah,
the new art, the Lapras. So this new one, I'll
yeah,
try to put it on screen so you guys can see. The new one features Lapras and features the new Sword and Shield, or Scarlet and Violet starters, right? Or is it
yeah,
Sword and
and
Shield?
Pikachu and then Psyduck's in the back. Yeah, he's in like a floaty kind of getting yeeted in the background, but
But which generation is it? Is it Scarlet Violet or is it Sword and Shield?
Scarlet and Violet because
Okay,
it's
so
got
it's Scarlet and Violet.
Waxley and Sprigatito and Boycoco on it. It looks good. I like the art on it a lot. It's a little bit, I don't know, like the Champions Festival makes sense because it's like it's at like a Worlds thing. Paradise Resort is not really maybe related to Worlds, but I guess neither is like Tropical Tidal Wave. So, that could just be being picky. But it's cool because in the background there's like a Ferris wheel and like what looks like a really nice resort next to it. So yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, you could edit it in right there. But yeah, I think the art looks good. People are definitely gonna like it. Having Lapras is kind of a sleeper Pokemon, but I think a lot of people like Lapras. So
I
we'll
think
see how
people
they do.
like Lapras because that fossil one is like one of the most expensive. People just know by proxy in the hobby that Lapras is expensive, and I think it just follows through with other ones. You know what I mean? So people
Yeah,
do
I mean,
like
but
Lapras.
Lapras has some pretty good arts, but I would say just in the game too, like it was a lot of people's like surf Pokemon. So
It's just
I
a
think
cool pseudo legendary type Pokemon.
yeah,
Kinda. You only get
yeah,
the one. Yeah.
yeah, and then they wrote around on Lapras in the show a lot. So I don't know. I think Lapras is fairly popular, but the art's good. It's the first Japanese Worlds in a long time, so I think it'll stand out and people will definitely be going for it. I want to buy some packs. I haven't yet. I probably should pull the trigger here pretty soon, but
They're cheap.
um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see where everything lands, but um,
So like I think you and I talked about this several months ago about what we were going to expect to see for promo packs, because I was going to get my toes a little bit, dipping my toes in Champions Festival or whatever. And I think we were estimating, you had said, I think you thought they were going to be higher than the London ones. And you thought by a significant amount because it was in Japan the first time. And I agreed with that. And I think you and I were both sort of settling on it being between 1,500 and 2,000, most likely for the packs. So I think that they're really closer to like that 1,000 mark right now, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, these things change wildly. So
on on the ground, but I think like on eBay they're selling for actually right in between 1,500 and 2,000.
okay, so it is about right where you and I were talking about, if that's the case, and that sounds about right because if you have friends in the hobby like we do and get them for $1,000 on the ground,
I
then
can't
it
get them for 1,000 bucks. If anybody out there can get them for 1,000 bucks, I'll pay you 1,300. Hit me
okay,
up.
fair. So I was seeing on Instagram a couple days ago a couple people posting like, oh, these are going for $1,000. So I assumed it was pretty readily available, but if it's not, then that I'm mistaken about that. I haven't bought any either.
I don't really have any, like most of the people that I know that are there are like flippers anyways, and they're just buying them for themselves. So
So yeah, that's another thing. I do have friends who are there, but they're also flippers, so I haven't even thought to ask them because of exactly that. Like, why would they want to sell it to me? But I have a
yeah,
couple people that I think I would probably be. I just like you. I'm not entirely sure where they're going to settle out. I think that a lot of people are going to be doing and thinking the same thing. And whenever I see that with something, I never want to get into it. And a lot of it is a comfort level thing too, and it's never something that I've delved into, and my comfort level is always sort of not there for it, and so it's just not something that I found myself diving into. But I find it interesting though that they are so expensive always right out the gate, and it seems to be still the case, which we were predicting, but I do find it to be a little bit interesting. Third
very
thing about
few.
Worlds, though, that is new, speaking of new promos, is that we finally got a new first, second, and third Pikachu promo for the actual winning, like the first prize, second prize, which is a full art. That's a big deal. That's like something that we were speculating on. Are you surprised that they stayed with the full art and didn't do something a little different style, maybe like an alternate art style, or like I don't know,
Yeah,
something
I
like
wish it was real art. It's like it's hella mids to me that like all the trophies are 5 band It's like it's so booty to me. I think like it's like with all the crazy stuff that Pokemon's been coming out with lately, and people are just like going gaga over this CGI Pikachu holding a trophy. I don't
to
buy
be
it.
honest, I feel the same way about it.
It's hella mids, dude. It's like to me, if you've gotten to that point in Pokemon to where you're a world champion, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I mean the first trophies ever or whatever, like those are all hand drawn and people love those. I'm not saying like do a half art or anything
No,
like that, but it's like, dude, if you had like one by Sugimori, one by Arita, and like one by like Himeno or something, I mean, That to
Well,
me would be
hold on.
so much more
Imagine
special than just
the
because every
Yokohama
year is.
deck. What if they use the Yokohama deck art for like the first place and just put like first place on it? You know, the one with Miraidon and Koraidon and like
Mm,
imagine that was instead of the trophy one, you know, and it just said first place on it or something. And
I think
we
it
didn't
could
have the
still.
Yokohama deck. Like
I
that
see
would
what
be
you're
the type
saying.
of art that I'm looking for rather than that full art. That's what I mean. Not like
Yeah,
give me the same artwork and keep the Yokohama deck. That's a whole other situation. But
yeah, I see what you're saying. I
like
mean,
give an alternate art. Give us a little bit of that beautiful, like that alternate art style that we've been seeing put into the sets and the UPCs and like the secret rares. Like give us something real art, like you said, because like that's something I think that like it would have made sense to do as well because that's what the whole era was like about. Whereas like before the full arts made sense because that's kind of what the XY and that era was really about was like full arts and gold cards. That was like when they brought it out. And then like, the half arts in the early days, that's all they had. So we understand that. Like, I'm not saying doing a half art either. But yeah, totally. You're right, spot on. I agree with you. I don't know if it's a hot take or not. I think that a lot of people, like you said, are really drooling about it because they're like just getting it's what we've got. And people are happy being given something, because it's all we got. But it's okay to wish for a little bit more in times with things like this. Because like, sure, I would be happy having that, no problem. Like I'd sell it like anything else. I'm a dirty flipper, but um I think they could have done better with the art. But it's cool that they gave us
yeah, I
new
mean,
art.
I'm not like so enamored by the rarity to where I'm willing to forego the fact that the actual art is just kind of whatever, it's just CGI Pikachu holding a trophy. I mean,
It's
it
not a
doesn't
rarity.
do
It's
it for me.
the hardship that you had to get, the adversity. I think with that specific trophy, the first place for like the TCG trophy, it's less about rarity and population than it is about like adversity, at least from my evaluation of a card. Like, because like you had to work hard. It's hard to play and win in the TCG championship like that. Like you have to be really good at playing the game and dedicate so much time and so much effort that like you can't buy your way into that. You can't buy your way. I mean, you can buy the card, but you can't buy the adversity that you had to go through to win the card. So I think that's where the card holds its value is sentimental, which is really weird for me to say because I don't believe in sentiment. But just I guess maybe that's me as a card player looking at a card like that, and I'm like, that is the height. That is like it's not a rarity thing, it's an art thing. It's that you had to be the best. You had to be the very best that year. And it's not easy to be the very best. Trust me, I've tried. So, a lot of people don't try though. So I get it. If you think it's easy to be the very best, you probably have never tried. So that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely impressive to be able to do that. I'm not hating on what it takes to get the card at all.
That's where the value I think is held. But I agree with you. I think the art's totally mids. But as far as like where the value is held in it, I don't know if the art matters per se. You know
No,
what I mean?
definitely not. Definitely
Yeah.
not. People, I mean, look at snap cards, like super
Well, it's the
valuable.
ugliest
Those
art
cards
ever.
are
Yeah.
very mid. So,
First of all, I can't read it, and second of all, it's not even a hollow.
okay,
So
well, neither of those are issues to me, but I think the art, I mean, even like the number one, two, and three trainer, like with the Sugimori trainer that they did with the half art and the one, two, and three have different amounts of Pokemon on them.
I love that.
I don't know. I really like the art on stuff like that, and I just think it like feels special. Like the first time you see that card, you're like, whoa, like I've never seen that art before, and it's because it's rare and special and hard to get. I'm not really into like variants, like even the versus series English deck, like that to me is the dumbest. Like I get that it's rare, I get that it came from the Hawaiian, the Tropical Mega Battle, but it's just like it's all these same cards. It, you know,
Sir, you and I
it,
with that are going to be very, very much
it's
so in a hard disagreement.
it's just okay, cool. It's like when people pay all that money for like the Dragonite that has the different number. It's like,
That's
okay,
stupid. That's
not
stupid.
saying the
The
market
Arrow
agree, like
Dragonite, that's
clearly the market
dumb.
doesn't agree with me. I just think that kind of stuff is
I agree with you on that
whatever.
one. I disagree with you about the you know the situation we're talking about for the Versus Series English cards. Like, we know, for anyone who's not watching, come on, we have to talk about it a little bit. The Versus Series is a Japanese exclusive set that came
Yeah, but
out.
it's not those arts
No, I
in
know. This
English,
is
you know
for
what
the
I mean?
viewers
Like,
right now. The
yeah, yeah,
Versus
yeah.
Series is a Japanese exclusive booster box. There's two booster boxes that came out. There are these thick packs that came with like a set number of cards, more than a usual pack, and they had a guaranteed holo in every pack. And in certain boxes, you can get certain ones, and other ones you can get others. Just like any Japanese product, they came out in first edition and non-first edition, and they're very rare. They're very cool. We never got them in English as artwork because most of the cards were just never translated over and made because of the timing of it. But we did, in one instance, get that set ported over to English. And that's what Retro and I are talking about right now. Was in like either the early 2000s or late 90s. There was a tournament in Hawaii where you were invited, your family or you as a player was invited they invited people from all over the world, certain amount of people from all over the world, and you were given a specific deck in your language of these Versus Series cards to play with so that you could be on an even playing field with everyone else, and you didn't have to translate over or have to have a translator or whatever. So they only made, like, depending if they had like 8 people from the Netherlands, they made like 8, or I don't know if these are real numbers, so don't quote me on any of this. 3 people from the United States, they made 3 decks. I think that's the number from the US. And so each individual country had a different number of these decks made in their original language, and they were never made in that language before. What's special, put specifically to me about this tournament, is not just the rarity of the cards, but the fact that as an English collector, someone who only likes English cards, really, because I need to read the card to see it, to translate it, to really focus what I like. I don't know, to have a connection with it. To me as a player, and that being the one time you could get invited and made individually for you as a person, it hits so many levels. Like, and then also I didn't know it existed until later on in life. Like, I played the game as a kid and I didn't know this tournament existed. I didn't know the Versus Series existed, these weird e-reader cards or whatever. I just knew the English ones did. So like, all these layers, I don't know, maybe I'm biased because I was a player. All these things that make this unique tournament special is the only place you could hit these cards. They demand crazy premiums of prices, ungraded, damaged, because you literally at the tournament had to play the cards. So none of these cards will 10. There's not a single PSA 10 that I'm aware of these cards. And there shouldn't be because you played with them. And so, like, it's such a special set to me that it's one of the few things that I think do demand the premium for variants, because I'm right there with you. To pay $1,000,000, $1,000, to pay $1 more for a stupid first edition stamp, I am not in it. I collect unlimited. I do not collect first edition. I will sell first edition to the day I die because I am not, in my opinion, financially foolish enough to think that that little first edition stamp does anything to make the card better besides maybe make it more exclusive for certain people. So I like the art. So, like, I don't know. To me, it hits all those levels. And to me, it's the only thing that I think deserves some of that level of, like, extra, for a variant, because it is just a variant. Like, you could buy a cheaper version in Japanese and have the same art. But, like, it's so special because it's like a trophy card. I don't know. I just have to hard disagree with you on that. And if I'm wrong on anything, just let me know. But, like,
No, I
it's
mean everybody's allowed to have their own opinion, you know.
fair enough. But
Yeah,
just for the
I don't really
viewers, if
have
you
the.
haven't heard, that is the story with those cards, though. And, like, there's more to it too. Like, there was a secondary tournament that the parents went to that was like a secret tournament. So they handed out some extra cards and extra decks. So there are a couple extra decks running around. So, like, I don't know. There's a lot of history involved with things like that. And while I'm not like a total like simp for that kind of history in the hobby, I can at least respect something sort of a little bit like that, I guess. But that being said, what I can't respect is people paying $350, $400 for a $20 product that gets released. Everything that gets released and with the intention of essentially just flipping it. So I did want to talk a little bit, circle back to Worlds again and talk about the Yokohama decks. So I am going to try to do a little editing. I said this a couple times. So right here, this is the Yokohama deck, the Worlds deck that's up. Put it on the screen so you can see it. These little buggers, just a week ago, these little buggers in their natural environment started pre-selling for up to $300 to $400. By George, I was at a live show and I saw a boy had a $350 box in his hand, and he couldn't have been 12 years old. What do you take to that, Retro? What do you say about all of that? I just say, by George, it's ridiculous. And so I said something about it in the freaking Discord the other day, and I rubbed people the wrong way. The wrong way. And so I want to know what you think about these decks. And if like I should just be keeping my mouth shut, letting people pay whatever stupid price. I'll put air quotes for anyone who's sensitive about what they paid for these decks. But like, should I just like shut up about it, or like, am I wrong to say something about these ridiculous prices that people are paying for it? Like, what do you think about this situation? Oh, and they could be resealed too, and that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, I actually got scammed buying one of those, so that kind of blows.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. So my
No, dude, it's what happens. It just sucks. I mean, it's a cost of doing business in this environment, especially surrounding like the
I
demand
hate
for.
that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hate when people
Yeah,
say
like,
that's just the cost of doing business.
look,
I feel
look,
like
dude,
that's
look,
such
look.
a
I'm not happy about it. I wish
you
that,
shouldn't have to feel that way, bro. That's so wrong.
no,
You
I know, but it's like when you're buying, especially on Japanese websites, like it just is what it is. Like you don't have the same sort of protections that you get on eBay, and that's also why things tend to go for more on eBay because you don't have to worry about potentially getting scammed. Even if you do your due diligence, like I do all the stuff that I normally do when I'm trying to make sure that somebody is a honest, forthright seller, especially on something that's a little more expensive. Still got scammed. It is what it is.
what
But
happened with you if you don't mind me asking, if it's not too soon to
well,
say?
so there is a specific like packaging, like a box that always comes from Pokemon Center Japan, regardless of what you're buying. It's like everything, they have their own custom packaging, own custom labels, all that sort of stuff. So the listing I bought, and then here's another thing you can do too, is like check if people are verified or not. Like when people sell on different websites like Mercari or whatever, like you can see if they've like uploaded their ID to be like verified with the website basically. And so that's sort of like an extra level of protection because if the person tries to like, rug pull or whatever, like Mercari has your information and they can, sort of like get money from you if need be. But yeah, so the listing, the dude was good, perfect feedback. The listing was of the sealed box from the Pokemon Center. So I was like, perfect, it's a sealed box. It didn't show up in a sealed box, it just showed up in the deck box, and there was no promo inside of it. So, kind of
Did
a
you
bummer,
look on the
but
bottom and see if you could see like the bend on where because I guess I've heard that you can like kind of look on the bottom and just to see what it looked like. Obviously when you opened up you're like you knew right away, but like did you then turn it around and see if you would have been able to tell maybe? But no,
no,
you're
I'm not good with that resealing stuff, so I don't really know what to look for. I was just kind of like, of course, like that kind of sucks. But I think those are down to like 250-ish right about now, and I know they're going to be doing more waves of them. So it makes sense why they were so expensive because when they got announced, it was right when all the Japanese Pikachu promos were just going absolutely crazy. And it has a similar look to it as like the different Festa promos that they've done. So I think people were just like, hey, if you can get one of these in PSA 10, you're going to do pretty well. It's just supply and demand, man. Right, like right now, there's a set that just came out in Marvel called Marvel Masterpieces, and it's like a really big deal for Marvel collectors because basically what they do is Upper Deck goes to the artist that they want to do the set, and then they say, "Do you want to do the set?" They work, terms and details and all that sort of stuff, and then from the date that the artist agrees, they basically have what works out to like 3 days per painting, and they do full size paintings and those end up being the images for the cards. So they're not like digitally done. This is all like hand painted, like really, yeah, really, really nice stuff.
Like this stuff. That's what they do with sorcery. Every single
Okay.
card has a hand painted canvas done by individual artists. There's no CGI, no computer work.
Okay.
Everyone's canvas done, each card. Yeah, so it's the same thing. But that's
I didn't know
insane.
that.
There's a
I didn't know
lot of
that
work that
about.
goes. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think that's so expensive is because like it's all hand done by
Yeah, and
really
I mean,
renowned artists.
with Marvel Masterpieces, like it's always been like a premier sort of, premium set or whatever, but boxes right now, I think like generally I want to say they go for like 300 to 400, and right now boxes are selling for like 900. So
Wow. For a
people
Marvel
are,
set. That's so cool.
yeah, so people are pretty, and every there's like a limited run because I want to say every base card is numbered, or it used to be like every base card is actually numbered. So
That's cool.
um yeah, but anyways, it's just, people are mad about it because they can't afford to open it, and I totally get that. Like
I
I'm not
get
opening
that.
a
Yeah.
$900 box either, but
Yeah,
uh
I guess that's true.
especially
Yeah.
with the expected value of that. But it's just supply and demand, and I think like if people are feeling frustrated or angry or whatever, it's like just be patient. Things have a way of working themselves out, and if you can't get every release, like when something is going super crazy, especially in Pokemon, like there's so many opportunities and different options. Like if something seems overpriced to you, I can almost promise you there's something that's underpriced that you could be buying right now. You know what I mean? So if
Crown
something,
Zenith.
huh?
Oh, sorry. I have a little Crown Zenith stuck in my throat.
Oh,
My
okay.
bad.
Um, yeah, so it sucks. It is what it is. I mean, I've heard that TCG Classic product that's coming out is being sold for like $1,400, which is kind of nuts.
I want
So
that. I want it. Not at that price, but I want it.
I know that's what I'm saying. So it just is what it is. I think things will chill out, but bottom line, like there's just more demand for Japanese product than the supply that they're making. Like it's pretty simple economics, but unfortunately, with that sort of demand comes people scamming, people putting juice boxes and booster boxes, people taking out promo cards and scamming, people making fake accounts on Japanese websites that and making listings that, unknowing Westerners will buy, and then they can get away with sort of scamming you because there's not really any recourse. There's been a lot more of that lately, and I think it's just because things are so hot right now. People think it's like a really easy opportunity to make money, and so they're just some people are ripping people off and kind of taking advantage of the situation, which is unfortunate. But hopefully things will kind of calm down and less of that will happen. So, we'll see.
Do you think that you'll ever find yourself at a Pokemon Worlds, like traveling to one, or were you waiting until it's like in Seattle in your area kind of thing, and maybe then you'd go if it was an hour or two away? But do you ever see yourself doing that?
It's tough because it's not really focused on it's not really like a show where you can buy or sell at,
Right.
like I could go to get packs basically, like try to get as many packs on the ground as possible. To be honest, like I'm not really like I don't have a lot of like Pokemon friends. You know what I mean? Like I don't know all these people that know each other when they go to Worlds, and I don't really care about the playability. So outside of Japan, there wouldn't really be a reason for me to go unless I had maybe like more of a network or had some sort of business set up there, like just to go because I love Pokemon. Like I don't really care about it that much. You know what I mean? Like if it was part of my job or something, like if I got a job with Pokemon, like hell yeah, absolutely. But it would have to probably be a Japanese Pokemon Worlds because like English Pokemon Worlds does not interest me in the slightest. Like that is that is the farthest thing away from what I'm, interested in going to. So but that might change in the future if my business grows and I make more friends and contacts and things like that. Then yeah, maybe. But at least right now, like I'm not one of the in crowd or whatever. So it's like, what am I gonna do? Just like hang out and be like, oh, cool move, like, you know.
Yeah, I feel it. Like I guess like for me, I would be like you're saying, I'd be excited about seeing the other country and traveling for that reason. So like even without knowing a lot of people, I would feel like I would be able to have a lot of fun in Japan just exploring the country. So I agree with you. I don't think I'd be as likely to go to like one that was in the US, even if it was somewhere cool like New York or I don't know, somewhere that I don't go usually that I'd want to go and explore maybe. It's just not as exciting to me as going to like another country as much because, like you said, I wouldn't be able to sell. And so like I wouldn't be able to use it as like a business kind of trip sort of thing and recoup my money by selling and that way. So I would have to really want to go. And like I do love traveling. Like I hate traveling, the act of traveling, but I love traveling, you know? I grew up watching Anthony Bourdain, on the Travel Channel my whole life. Like my family,
Hell
that was
yeah.
what was on the background. So like I love that type of like I just like cultures, different cultures. I can appreciate it anywhere. I have a pretty open mind with that. I try to have an open mind with that.
I'd
And
just
so
rather like I'd rather go to the Collecticon. I mean, look, if they
yeah,
brought it to Seattle, yeah, absolutely I'd go. But
if it was another one in Japan, I would definitely go. I think I would go to a Worlds in Japan, like you said. Like I think if it was somewhere like even without, because I'm like you, man. I have friends who are over there, but I don't know everyone. I'm not like one that has like a clique of people that I'm like feeling like I'm missing out because they're all there and I'm here. I just don't have friends like that in the hobby, but I have some friends who are there, like a few in the Discord, and like I have a friend from Whatnot who's there, and shout out to Whatnot Waifu. She's there right now enjoying Worlds and good friend of ours on the channel. So she's having a blast. I've seen pictures and like all the food, the culture. I could see myself even go to
yeah,
a
see,
world.
that's what I would care about is like the
Yeah.
food and the culture. Like I don't really care about the event and
But then
all
you
that
have
sort of
3 days
stuff.
of Pokemon on top of all that. You got to think of it like that, man. Like you to go for like a week and like yeah, you get your overwhelming Pokemon in, but then around that you don't do any Pokemon around it. You do all the culture. So,
Yeah.
maybe one of these days we'll have to go to a world together. We'll try to go to a Japan Worlds. We'll get a little group together and I'll convince you to go over there and you
Oh,
know
I'd go, man. I just like I'd want to eat like 24/7, you know what I mean? I'd be like
dude, we're getting the
I'd be
best
everywhere.
tempura spot, the best
Yeah.
ramen spot. We're gonna be going to a sushi joint. We're gonna get a poke joint. We're gonna get all this, or not poke. That's Hawaiian, not Japanese. What am I saying?
Yeah, I'd be killing
Flower
all that
gardens.
stuff.
We're
Yeah,
going to one of those
temples.
strawberry farms with the $100 strawberries. We're going to a cat cafe where there's cats in the. You go and pay to be around all the cats. We're doing the whole Japanese thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like I don't like I'd like to go to the card shops too and just be surround or just like, like anime shops and stuff like that, like be surrounded by you don't get that here. Like you go into a mall and there's like the one anime shop and it's like, you know what I mean? It's just not the same, dude. Like there it's part of the culture, like they're proud of it and just to kind of be surrounded by that, technology, same thing, like those video game arcades, like I'd probably spend hours and hours in there because I mean they have a Japanese Dragon Ball Z. It's like a card game. It's called Super Dragon Ball Heroes, but it's like an arcade game mixed with a card game. Like I'd love to, try that out. I'm sure there's all sorts of DBZ, Pokemon, Zelda, Yu-Gi-Oh, like Mario. Like I'm sure there's all sorts of arcade games that we don't get here that are super badass. That'd be super fun to play. Um, yeah, so I would definitely have fun, but I don't know, man. Like yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I feel like this might be the only time, or like they might not do Japan again for a while, which I'm kind of bummed about. But yeah,
That
I
would
don't
be
know.
sad. I would be really sad about that, and I'd feel even more FOMO than I'm feeling now if they don't do Japan again for a long time. Because, like you said, I wouldn't care as much about it. Though there are some other countries. Imagine if they did Pokemon Worlds in Rome. Imagine exploring the Colosseum
Yeah, that
after
would be
Worlds. Like,
nuts.
how cool that would be, dude. That would be so
They could
dope. And it's
do
like
they could
you're
do some
battling it
really
out at the
cool.
Colosseum. Well, you're not, but that'd
They
be
could
cool.
put the little like the laureate or whatever, like the Caesar headpiece on Pikachu or whatever. Like they could come up with some pretty cool art for
That would be
sure.
such a neat location that I would probably travel to, or like there are other, like another Hawaii one would be kind of cool. I feel like that would
Yeah,
be
Hawaii would be sick. That would
like
be
they'd
dope.
go back there, like it would be like coming back because of the tropical. They could do a call back to the tropical mega battle. It'd be a really cool opportunity. Like there are other places besides Japan. It would just have to be somewhere rather than like Kentucky or like
Yeah,
Missouri. No
man.
offense to Kentucky or Missouri.
Ugh.
I have family in Kansas and Oklahoma, but I don't want to see the worlds in Oklahoma. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it feels kind of beneath Pokemon at this point to be doing anywhere
Don't
world
say that. It's
anywhere.
not beneath them. Trust me. They'll put one in, Des Moines, Iowa if you say that too loudly. They hear you.
Please, please no. Please no.
Duluth. They're gonna put one in Duluth.
Yeah, yeah, I'm all set, but
Is there any other towns, small towns I can offend the entire population of? Any other names you want to throw out there just in the podcast? We're far enough in. I don't have to, flag it too much. But there's something we were talking a little bit about this with the Japanese stuff with the reseals, wherever you see opportunity and everything, and yeah, I think that it's like you said, when there's a lot of money in something, it's unregulated, there's a lot of scams involved. But I do want to talk a little bit maybe about our third topic here, kind of move on to live streaming platforms and discuss if not, I don't want to specifically call out every single person that I've seen scamming on whatnot over the years, because there's been a bunch of them, and there's some other channels that do that exclusively. But I do want to just talk about the overall live streaming platforms, bounties, gambling, carnival games, etc. And if you think maybe that they're preying on the inexperienced, the weak, or those who have problems in the hobby in such a way that they are maybe hurting the hobby, or do you think that maybe the good outweighs the bad? And now I do want a little bit of a caveat with this because this is a really loaded question. I know a lot of people, they're probably hear that and be like, man, that's a lot. They're say yes, they're bad. No, they're not. There's a lot that goes along with it. I specifically mean, do live streaming platforms as they are now, not like what they could be, what they were when they first popped up, just what we see right now on the market. Do you feel like that they're bad or hurting the market because they're preying on the weak, or allowing these sort of things or even encouraging it to occur? So
I
I guess
mean,
break that down how you will, but
we
that's the
know we know it we know they're definitely not hurting the market, right? Like whatnot streamers are keeping the hobby alive. You got your Poke Jaces out there and things like that. So they're definitely not hurting the market. And if something happened to where all sorts of live streaming platforms or people weren't allowed to like sell packs on live stream anymore, Pokemon went after them saying you had to have some sort of license to resell their products. I think that would be a huge blow to the market. As far as people gambling and stuff, look, man, like I'm not a casino person. You know what I mean? It's funny. You'll like some of the biggest people in the hobby are just massive gamblers, right? Like they'll buy into these really expensive pack breaks or they'll go spend all this money at the casino or whatever. And that's just not who I am or something that I'm interested in. But I don't fault other people for doing it. They're adults, they can do whatever. Are you getting taken advantage of at the casino? Like, hell yeah, like the house always wins, or at least they win enough of a percentage of a time to where like it's a very lucrative business model. So and with opening packs, like it's the same thing, it is what it is. Like you're gonna lose. But I'm not saying it's right, but like I can see why a lot of people, I mean, we were even just talking earlier, like the economics don't really make much sense for how much time and effort and work you put in and how much product you sell through, and how long you have to stream for to like be honest and do it the right way. You know what I mean? Like the money isn't that crazy unless like you have some massive following to where you just have, and you could be buying stuff at 70% and instantly selling it for 100% and things like that. Like it just, the economics don't really make sense. But overall, like it's just more places for people to be able to interact and buy stuff. Like just because it's not my thing, I'm not mad at other people for doing it. And like the scam stuff is horrible. I mean, look, I just got scammed. You know what I mean? That that was from a website where, like this dude's verified and has got a bunch of feedback. You know what I mean? So like stuff just happens. And I think it's good if you're doing bad things, like you need to have consequences, but at the same time, like the whole call out channel stuff and the drama, like I can't stand that stuff. It's like that to me is the biggest negative on the hobby. If like all you're doing is pumping out negative stuff day after day, people are getting scammed. This is horrible. Don't buy off this platform. Blah 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 blah. Hating on other YouTubers, like that stuff is so stupid to me. Like it's so easy to just sit and crap on somebody else and like I don't know. I'm going off on a long rant here, but and I don't fully know to the extent the whole Blake Martinez stuff or whatever. Like I saw a little bit on it, and it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Like someone, placed a different pack on top of another pack, like, but the repercussions to me from this are almost worse than just actually dealing with it because now everything's a scam, and you got people buying from like Nick and Rusty on eBay, probably like, oh, did you reseal this Darkness Ablaze and stupid stuff like that. You know what I mean? So overall, it's like, in my opinion, sometimes it might hurt more than it actually helps. Yeah, there's bad stuff that goes on. Yeah, there's dishonest people. Yes, they deserve to be dealt with and have consequences and things like that. But when people just like hyper focus on it or make it their entire brand to make a channel just crapping on other, it's just like I'm all set, like it's really, yeah, it just makes the hobby overall like negative to me, I guess. Sorry for like the long rant, but
No, I
yeah,
appreciate it.
man.
I'm just unpacking a little bit. But I still do. I guess it still begs the question though, is like I agree with, I think that people don't need to necessarily spend an overly amount of time and effort like focusing in on like just negativity. I don't like a lot of those like drama channels either. I will agree with you on that. But I will say I sort of disagree, not disagree, but I sort of just maybe feel a little bit differently about the live streaming platforms versus casinos. In a couple of ways, because like even casinos, there's like posted odds and regulation, and the blackjack dealer isn't allowed to like have cards up their sleeve. And it's not like, and like if a casino was found to like have a lot of dealers who were like regularly having cards up their sleeve, it wasn't just one dealer who was like just a bad case, you would think that like that casino would probably have to face some repercussions because maybe there was more. So like, and it would make me feel like if I bought at that casino at any point, even if it was from a different dealer, it would make me feel like my odds of winning weren't ever even there. So I feel like there's like some regulation with casinos, whereas with a lot of these live streaming platforms, there is no regulation. And I say that from like a no judgment place because like I streamed on this platform. I ran bounties. I run guess the energy games. I've run mystery packs. I've done all of these things that can be egregiously taken advantage of. I will say that lots of people who have watched my channel, especially like my longtime viewers of my Whatnot channel who follow me on Whatnot, my main game was none of those games. My main game that I played day in, day out was something that I invented called Rip Till You Hit, which has almost zero opportunity for being scammed in because the nature of the game is you keep opening until you get a hit of whatever designated level. So like when I first started it, I just ran an auction for 99 cents and let it go for however much, and it's like rip till you hit the secret rare in the booster box, so like a rainbow rare, gold rare, or alternate art. And that's how I'd run it, and it would just go however many packs. If it was one pack, great. If it was 20 packs, whatever. And that was in a booming market, it worked very well. I didn't have any rules on it, no like levels. It would always go for higher than it took me to rip the amount of packs, so I'd make a profit on it. When the market started coming down, I had to start making rules on that game. Whereas like if you pay $20, you get, up to a regular V. If you pay $30, you get the full art V. If you pay $50, you go till the secret rare. So it would make sure that the threshold was a certain amount so that I, as a streamer, am not losing too much money when someone pays $10 to get a rip till you hit a secret rare, and I don't hit a secret rare for a whole booster box. So it was when the market started falling, I started putting in safeguards with my game that I brought to the platform. Nobody did this game on the platform before, and it became very popular. So rip till you hit, it can be manipulated. Thinking about it now, if I was really wanting to manipulate that game, even that game can be manipulated. If I opened up all the booster boxes, took the best possible hits out, like say I had like an alternate art, like rip till you hit. If you get a certain alternate art, because I would run these, I would run a bounty that you would get a rip till you hit for, let's say, $50. Rip till you get a full art or better. So I rip packs until you get anything. And if you got anything less than that, you just keep it too. So it'd be a big stack sometimes, depending on where it was at in the booster box. But there would be an additional bounty sometimes, like you would get a booster box if you hit the specific alternate art. So, like when we were doing Evolving Skies, in addition to if you hit the Moonbryon, you would win a booster box in addition to your Moonbryon if you got that specific alt art. I could do that because the likelihood of that alt art being hit among all the other alt arts is less likely, and I could give out like a booster box of payment. But my bounties, anyone who's been in my streams, were never really big. That's because I could not pay out big bounties at the odds that they were being hit because I wasn't manipulating things. I was getting wrecked if I ever ran games at real odds. So I didn't run Guess the Energy. There was one stream. I said earlier about 5 minutes ago that I played the Guess the Energy game on my stream. I did not play the Guess the Energy game on my stream regularly. I only said that because there was 1 or 2 streams in a row that I did Guess the Energy because I saw my constituents doing it, saw how well it was doing for them, and I got wrecked. I got riggedy wrecked, chat. Like they were taking me for a ride. I bet you there was someone in the chat who knew the way the energies were because I was going out of a booster box. I wanted to be as literally as open as it could be. So I just opened a fresh booster box and went straight out, didn't shuffle them or anything. I guarantee there was one dude in my streams always in those 2 streams who was winning a couple and nobody else was winning them. He probably knew about the mapping thing because he wasn't saying, he was only bidding on certain ones. So I got wrecked. I didn't run that game anymore because I was running the regular odds. So you didn't see that. I didn't play any of those other games either because and my bounties were really small. The most they would ever be was like a booster box and it would be at a high tier because it would have to make sure that I wouldn't pay out and lose because I did it every day. I was a business running this. You can't lose every day just to get viewership like some of these bigger channels claim they're doing. Like, I give out to the community, I donate, I do giveaways, and that's how I can afford to lose on these bounties that seem so ridiculous. No, there's no one doing it for charity. So I didn't run those games for that reason. I had to run a game that I couldn't manipulate because I thought it was giving good value. It was something other people weren't offering, whatever. It's not about that. The point being is there's a way to scam. Anyone can scam. It's unregulated. Nobody was overlooking me, looking over my shoulder. Nobody, I would dare say, was even looking back at the streams because they were hidden at the time. And honestly, if I wanted to, I could have been taking everyone for a ride on so many different ways, and there would have been no oversight. And that's the problem. Like, if a casino is taking you for a ride, you got like the FDA or whoever it is that regulate USDA. I don't know who regulates casinos, but I guarantee you there's someone. There's nobody who's going to come in and get these people their thousands and thousands of dollars back for trading cards just simply because the police don't take it seriously. And also because there's no regulatory stature for it. So like, I do have problems with, while I don't have problems with the buyers who operate on and want to do a little gamble here and there. They want to do a little mystery box from a business or a little whatever pack opening. Ripping packs is a gamble, right? It's always a gamble. That's no one's saying it's not. But when you start adding other layers on to what is already a gamble and then not regulating it, and then here's where the problems started, I think. I was on the platform a long time and I saw it sometimes, but not as egregiously. When you literally open the doors, like you sort of suggested that would be bad if they closed the doors on sellers and started making them actually show their business licenses, show their distributor partnerships, show that they have something to lose if they scam someone. I think that was where the platforms that did that started maybe faltering, and we started seeing this potential worsening of the problem. Because when you do allow just anyone, and I don't think personally that the market is so weak that like it's being propped up by these live streaming platforms and the streamers that are buying for them. I honestly believe that the it was very strong before, and it would probably be strong without. Even if you were to rug pull completely one of these platforms out, like, and that's not what I'm saying is going to happen. All I think, though, is I do feel that if I was a person buying on these platforms, even if it was someone buying from someone like me who claims to be really trustworthy, and now I'm off the platform, so you can literally do anything if you wanted to, even if you did find out that I was somehow scamming. It's been months since I've been on the platform, so there's no way anyone would be able to have recourse. Like, it just feels like I wouldn't feel safe buying from anyone on the platform. And that's not to say that everyone's scamming, but the potential has been there. And I agree with you that maybe like there are like channels that go into it too much and like their whole identity is on it. And I don't like that either, but I don't want that to distract from the actual the message, I guess, because like those are two separate things. We're talking about like what's good for the hobby based on content being made, and then what's happening like on platforms that's unregulated that like people. Because what I do think hurts the hobby is like, even though these buyers are probably perfectly happy to go in these streams and buy over and over and quote unquote what we would consider waste their money gambling, I guarantee you they don't think they're gambling as much as they are in their head. They want to at least think they have fair odds of winning. And when that sort of confidence is somewhat broken or shaken, I think that can hurt the hobby and hurt the person doing the spending to the point where they don't want to go to other parts of the hobby. Like if you get burned really bad on eBay or on Mercari or on whatnot, you may not just be like, oh, well, I'm not going to be on whatnot anymore, but I'm perfectly happy to do the same old thing on a different platform. It's probably going to carry over a little bit, and you're going to feel like, well, shit, I don't want to do that on any platform anymore. I'm just going to take a step back. And I think that hurts the hobby more than like anything else when someone takes a step away because they were hurt from scamming. Because like it's one thing when you hurt yourself from gambling, you're just like, oh, it's a gamble. You feel dumb because it's low odds. But when you then spend that money and you realize that you never had a chance, that sting feels even worse. And you not only feel like a dumbass, well, you're not only broke, but you also feel like a dumbass and you're broke. So it's like the extra, like, because you never had a chance. And so I don't know. I personally am happy that this is coming to light, because I have also been trying for ages in the Discord, because I'm a seller and whatnot. I have special privileges. I can be in the actual seller Discord. I have been, since Celebration's coming out, calling out the scumminess that I've seen, and that's just early releases for Celebration, but there's other things. It's tough to see because I knew it was happening, but I didn't know exactly how. But now, after having it being revealed, I do see how, and it makes me even a little bit more angry, because it's like I was almost there with it. I assumed the Guess the Energy games. I never knew that you could, what's it called, map the energies. What I thought was happening was just straight up reseals, because there's no way that you could tell if it's resealed anyway. So that's the easiest assumption that I was making, was that they were just straight up looking at the energy and then putting it back and then having them different packs, or just somehow knowing or where it was at. It didn't occur to me that you could like map it like the way that they came out of the booster box, or certain sealed things like blister packs, like Darkness Ablaze blisters. They have a certain order of the energies, and but now that I know that, it makes a lot of sense, because like a lot of the streams, when I would finish streaming, I would go into another streamer's stream just to see how it was going. Oftentimes, I would hate watch the streams that I didn't like, the ones that were bigger than me, that were getting more viewers, that I thought were like getting
See,
way
that's
more per
that's not
pack than they
a
should.
that's not a good use of time. That's not a good use of time. I
But
agree. I agree. Like, yeah, like, and I do think, because this is such a high profile, like, I guess, celebrity type person or whatever, that that will put more pressure on, whatnot, to change things or be more, you know, quick to regulate, but I would also give Whatnot the benefit of the doubt. I mean, they've done like a crazy job just as a company. I mean, and they don't just sell cards too. Like people forget that. Like, I mean, Daily Refinement, I think his main selling platform is Whatnot, and he sells like bulk jeans and shirts and shoes, and people buy from him on Whatnot to resell as clothing resell. So like, I think people get caught up in look, eBay, are you going to get scammed on eBay Live? No, but like eBay also doesn't have the
There's
user
bounties
experience.
on eBay Live, Nick. They
Is
do
there?
bounties and stuff like that. Yeah. It's the
Okay, well,
same
I
dog and
think
pony show, bro.
I,
It's no different.
I think I well, at least from talking to some people at eBay, like I don't think they're gonna stand for any baloney if people start doing because there's no shortage of people that do honest business that would love to take the place of people if they started scamming on eBay Live. So I'll just say like, it's probably gonna take time. Um, it makes enough money that eventually someone is going to come in and do it right if none of these other platforms kind of. But I mean, dude, like I think it's like $100 credit with Loop that you get or something when you renew your PSA membership. And I went on there and spent it all on like, Star Wars Galaxy packs and maybe a few Pokemon packs or whatever. Like it was fine, stuff's overpriced, but like that's kind of what you expect it to be. You buy it, they open it, you get your cards. It is what it is,
You would
like
have never spent your own money on it though.
no, because like that's just not something I'm interested in. I'm not buying booster boxes for myself to open, let
Sure.
alone
Yeah. Okay. So
pay,
that's not
you
the
know what I mean?
proper,
But
that
like
wasn't a proper. Yeah.
I've supported like Dan before on his streams and bought packs from him and stuff like that, and like it's pretty simple transaction. Like you go to the website, you buy the packs, he opens them, ships you the hits, wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Is
So
it, but is it that much to ask a platform to like regulate the extra layers of gambling that are already there? Like, is it that much to ask someone to sell only the thing that's being sold, not these extra layers and extra games and spins? Is it that much to ask? Because I think honestly, nobody's asking Whatnot to shut down. Nobody like me, nobody's calling for them to ban all their streamers and to reevaluate or even to make sure their credentials are good. I personally think that the problem could probably be fixed if they actually had some hard and fast rules associated with like without a lack of better words, carnival games. And like
yeah, I
the
mean,
manipulation, the potential for manipulation when you add on extra layers is just it seems too juicy, and the problem with gambling in this country, gambling addiction and the lack thereof of transparency of who's using the app and whatever, all these things, and who's selling on the app at this point currently, that lack of transparency is sort of there. I think that could all sort of be addressed if you just make it so that these types of things are actually cracked down on. So you could still sell Funko Pops, you could still sell the clothes, you could still sell, because like, do you think Daily Refinement is putting up a pair of his jeans that he has, his whatever True Religion jeans, and saying, okay, guys, if you bid, there's these jeans are, I'm putting them up for $1, but if you bid over $100, I'm gonna spin this wheel in the back, and you're gonna get a chance at the whole bin of these jeans. You don't just get one, you get 10,000 of
yeah,
them.
but I think the dynamic is a lot different too. I mean, look, if like even you said, right, when the market started going down, you started putting in like, safety stops or whatever you want to call it. I think right now, if people could buy boxes from distribution for $95 and sell them for $125, a lot of people would just be doing that. I think a lot of the reason that people are doing all this sort of stuff, and again, there's always going to be the bad people that take advantage,
I was on Whatnot running bounties when Vivid Voltage booster boxes were
but like
$220. I was there, Nick. I was there in the
sure. Yeah, I
trenches.
mean, maybe I'm just, but look, like bottom
Insert
line,
the Elrond meme, okay?
yeah, bottom line, like live streaming platforms are not going anywhere. Like that's just something that is,
That's not the question. Are they bad for the hobby? Is the question.
I think,
Or are they predatory to the hobby as they are right now?
I
It's
think
more
that
so.
some people on any platform are predatory, and I think that predatory people are bad for the hobby, but I don't think it's fair to say that like an entire platform is just solely, I mean, dude, look, even though you obviously left, like you built a big business and a big following because of what you were able to build over there doing the right thing. You know what I
And I
mean?
don't
So
feel
like,
like that. And now I wouldn't be comfortable with the company continue. I could do the right thing, but I wouldn't be comfortable with the company backing me do the right thing, which is precisely why I left. It's funny that it all is happening now, several months. I'm glad that I think I've distanced my brand from Whatnot enough that like people don't exclusively think of me as a Whatnot streamer. When I was doing this podcast and only selling on Whatnot and not doing a lot of lives, people exclusively thought of me as a Whatnot streamer. That was my brand. I had like I that's
I think
damaging.
that was your brand within the community of Hyper Galaxy Brain, Pokemon Flipper, Nuance Market, blah blah blah. But in real life, if you told somebody that you were a live streamer that sold Pokemon, they're going to have a drastically different view of you than asking somebody from one of these communities, because people in these communities are like, well, I only grade my own cards and I always look for value and stuff. You're not talking to the average consumer. The average people don't care about the stuff that we care about or know a fraction of the stuff we know
But we
about. So
have
I
to
think you
care
were
about the average
unfairly
consumer.
discriminated against because of the circle you hang out in.
But that's the thing though. We have to care about the average consumer though. And that's I guess where I want to ask and another question about this, sort of going on to it. But do you think that it's the buyer's responsibility or the seller's responsibility or the platform that's hosting the buyer or the seller's responsibility to have some sort of responsibility there? I guess maybe not even all
All
on one, but where
three,
do you think
all
this
three,
lies?
all three. I
Okay,
look. I
that's a good
think
answer, but tell me the
so.
breakdown.
So I remember I took a like right when I started basically running the dispensary. I remember I was taking a business management class in college, and I remember I had to read this book on management, and they were talking about statistics that they pulled from different like retail, basically like big retail stores, talking about percentages of like when people would steal, and it was something like, you know, only 1 out of 10 people will steal if it's difficult to steal, right? Like if there's cameras directly on where cash is being handled, it's primarily like a business that's done on card. There isn't a whole lot of crash or cash transactions, things like that, blah blah blah, right? But then it jumped up from like 1 or 2 out of 10 people to like 7 out of 10 people are now willing to steal if there's no camera on the till, or if it's largely a cash business, or if the manager is gone for long periods. So like
If the
when it's
opportunity is
easier,
there.
yeah, the opportunity is there, people statistically are more likely to steal or do scammy things. So in that sense, like it is the platforms, but buyers need to have some morality and run a good business on solid business principles and not be screwing people
Sellers. You mean
over.
sellers need to have some morality.
Yeah, sorry, sellers. I meant,
Yeah, I
and then
thought you meant that.
buyers.
Just clarifying though.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, sellers need to be honest, run honest business, do honest business, say what they're or do what they say they're gonna do, and then buyers need to have some agency. You know, like even on eBay, man, like you gotta. Sure, if you get scammed, like and it's a clear scam, eBay will give you your money back. eBay's great about that. But at the same time, like you might have your money tied up for a minute if you just bought from somebody with zero feedback and you bought some deal that was too good to be true, or you bought like a booster box that was 1/10 the price of what market price is, and the seller's from China. Like you might get a Chinese knockoff box. You know what I mean? You
But
so
if you're paying a platform a percentage of and a fee and all these things, wouldn't you kind of place just a little bit more? Because like I get that it's on all three. Like I totally am there with
but
you.
the platform also is like an intermediary, right? Like some of the value that comes from the platform, like in eBay's case, it's the ability to connect buyers and sellers in an environment that is safe and is just like the place where people go to buy a lot of stuff, not just collectibles, but definitely like collectibles. People know like, oh, you can check for that on eBay when we're talking about comps. Like, what do you comp it off of? eBay, TCG Player, places like this. So them providing a service as an intermediary provides like some sort of value. And then, yeah, I would agree. On top of that, there's another layer of like safety, and that provides some value. But in the future, I think if Whatnot wants to continue to be a strong brand and not really have like this sort of reputation, they're gonna have to make some changes, bottom line. Like I don't think that they can continue to allow this forever. I would just maybe like give them, I don't know, a little more credit in the sense that they're selling things across so many categories. There's so many streamers. There's thousands and thousands of hours of people to watch, and it's easy as somebody on the outside to just be like, yeah, well, I sit and I don't do anything but watch Whatnot streams because I want to go back and I want to report them to these drama channels so that it's like, good for you. But maybe the amount of people they have to watch these thousands and thousands of hours of streams, maybe they only have like 5 or 10 people that are like combing through this stuff, and maybe they're more focused on some of the sports stuff because that's higher end scams, right, where you've got cards going for thousands of dollars and packs selling for hundreds of dollars, and you know what I mean. So maybe they're trying to, I don't know, I
Listen, I
honestly
don't know
don't
what
know.
they got going on right now either, but I just want to tell you one thing. They're valuated over $2 billion, Nick, of a
Yeah,
company.
exactly, so they're not going anywhere. So to me, like,
But they should have more than 5 to 10. Just if that's the case, I don't want to tell anyone how to run the business, but if you're valuated at over 2 billion, I would think they have a couple more people than you would think. You'd hope, I guess, but
maybe look how long it took just to get eBay authenticity guarantee. eBay's been around since the 90s, dude, and we just got authenticity guarantee like what, a year ago, 2 years ago.
yeah.
So I would just say like this is a new technology that, or not new technology, but this is a new platform style or whatever you want to call it. Like there's going to be bumps. There's going to be people that take advantage. That's just kind of how, there's people that took advantage with the internet and you know what I'm saying? Like all sorts of stuff before that got regulated. So I don't know. Like, again, I'm not the
So if
average.
you did like to open packs and you did like to gamble, would you go
I was just
on to
buying
Whatnot right
myself. I was just
Would
buying
you?
myself. I get it though. I get why people like, dude,
No,
sometimes
but
like
I'm saying if you were that person, would you feel, and you knew what you knew about everything that we know, would you feel comfortable going and buying on a live platform where someone's doing a guess the energy game?
I think that I would be more choosy on who I bought from, right? Like you don't, if you don't like, if you don't feel comfortable buying from a person that you're like, I can't really put my finger on it, but it kind of feels like something shady here, then like don't buy from that person again or buy your own, or you know what I mean? But like I think that there's plenty of people on there that are doing honest business that deserve your money if that's something that you're interested in, and a lot of people like to be in these chats and get all hyped up and root for each. I see that when Dan does streams or Alex does his box openings or whatever, like people just hang out. They just hang out and watch other people, and they're like, oh, I hope
That's
you
the
pull
good part.
something.
Yes, neither of those guys are running bounties and guess the energies and all that stuff though either. So like they're doing
Yeah.
what I personally think should be happening on the platform, just selling a pack for what it is, just one for one, just as it goes. So the reason I started, people are gonna get on me in the chat, and I hope they do, or down in the comments, because I love to see the controversial stuff happening. But they'd be like, "Old card shop, you ran bounties on your channel, you ran all these games and stuff like." And first of all, I didn't run all these games. I tried most of them and failed at lots of the ones that you had to manipulate to succeed at. But the games that I did run were simply run out of an arms race, a necessity. Understand the concept of an arms race, correct? For our viewers out there, an arms race is exactly what it sounds like. It's when everyone is building up arms, trying to get more, bigger, better bounties, bigger, better, everything, get bigger, more viewers, everything. And it creates a environment in which to succeed or not to fail at the very least, you have to play by the rules that everyone else is playing by. You have to participate in this arms race when everyone around you is running $1,000 bounties for vintage packs. You got to get some vintage packs and do bounties too. Now, there's of course layers, like what streamers are comfortable doing. Like I've already gone over this whole thing, like where my comfort level was versus others. And to be honest, it held me back because I wasn't willing to do the manipulation, the scamming in order to get the viewership. Because lots of the time, the viewers that I was watching in these other streams after I'd end my streams and hate watch these bigger streams, it wasn't people who are buying. There'd be 80, 90 people in these streams. It wouldn't be 80, 90 people bidding. Most of the people were like me watching with open eyes wide, being like, how the hell is this happening here? It's like they're like watching the circus, you know what I mean? And so like that's a layer too that happens. So I don't know. I think it is predatory. I think it is easier to clean up than people are willing to admit on the platforms. I will say that it's a large platform that I agree with you. There's a lot more going on to it, and it's probably harder than I'm willing to say right now to just get it all to end.
Well,
But
I
I
think
think
it's
there are ways that you can sort of stem the tide of the problems. Now, willingness to do so is a whole nother situation because do you know how much extra money? Trust me, Darkness Ablaze booster packs, Blake Martinez did not make $11 million selling $3 Darkness Ablaze booster packs. Those Darkness Ablaze booster packs were going probably closer to the $20 to $30 to $100 per pack, depending on what the bounty was in the back and how many energies were, on the board or whenever they were doing their games. And the multiples that you get from that are so much higher that if you took that out, it's not like just saying, oh, well, most of the profit's still there. We just remove a little 10% layer that you're adding on for the bounty. That's looking at streams like mine, where my bounties were like 2 ETBs or a booster box. No, 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 no. We're talking about real Whatnot streams where they actually have like ridiculous bounties that you're like, holy crap. Insert emoji, shock face emoji there because that's how they have to get their views. Those streams, they're making too high of a premium on those ridiculous bounties and things that I think the platform is far too afraid. They are afraid to leave that money on the board. And I think they're cowards for doing that because it's at the expense of their future profits and their future company's evaluation down the road. So I will say
I'm
it.
sure there's some percentage of that too, but you have to remember, like we were talking earlier about daily refinement, not like it wouldn't make sense to do a Raz or whatever the games are called on a pair of jeans. I think part of it too is like maybe Whatnot people are not card people and don't really understand. Like if someone was doing something faulty with jeans and running some sort of carnival game with jeans, it'd be pretty obvious to be like, this is weird. Like you can't be doing this. But cards are opening packs is already inherently gambling. So I feel like trying to write regulations around what's okay, what's not, what's morally right. Okay, you can do this kind of game, but only if you do it this way. Like
You
I'm
just
not trying to
ban
make
it
excuses.
outright. You say no games. You sell the pack and that is it. How hard is
Yeah,
that? How much
yeah.
of
I
is
mean,
how hard of a concept is that?
yeah. Hey, I'm not against that at all. Like I don't want people to get
I don't
scammed.
think you are, but I'm saying they actively are, which is why we're seeing such pushback. And so I don't know. That's it just it feels irresponsible, not just to your buyers, but your investors, because when something like what happened with Blake happens, because I'm saying this can happen with anyone. Personally, this whole thing with Blake Martinez happened, and since we've said his names, it's nothing's been proven yet, but it looks pretty damn bad. It looks pretty damn bad and pretty like it looks like they're guilty, but nothing's outright been proven except for they've been removed from Whatnot. But honestly, it doesn't matter. If the high profile person didn't get, taken, it still would have been happening on the platform. I'm happy a high profile person got caught with it because it brings that to light, I think. But it's like it's a problem that I've had, and it's like it's a problem I continue to have with the platform. And it's such a shame because I personally am, I think where you're at with it is where I am at with it too in my head on the development side. Because on the development side of the app, I think that the app has so much potential. It's run really well. They're really quick for the most part. There are some things we can say like they tiptoe around issues, obviously when it's controversial, but they always do that. That's any company has to do that when you're a big company. You can't just outright talk about an issue right away. You have to kind of tiptoe around it, until things are out in the open. But I do think that the backside of the app is really well run. Technologically, I think it's done really good things for the hobby. Like it's created a really well streamlined running live platform that highlights good things. But I think that it's gotten to the point where it really needs to be cleaned up. And that's just, I think, with, like you said, it's growing pains with any hobby, with any platform. But overall, I do think that live platforms, I'm associated with one network that I have signed up with. Not signed up, I don't have any like exclusivity with them or anything, but I can stream with them. I've specifically stayed away from streaming this last week because I just think that the environment surrounding it right now is not good. So it's one of those things that I want to see do better. So I hope that people aren't taking this as me thinking that, like, I think that all live stream platforms should be shut down. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think that Whatnot's bad. I think inherently it's actually a really good app. I just think that there's a lot of things that are questionable that I personally think the app should take more responsibility for. I think that there's a lot more responsibility on a platform than on its buyers or its sellers. I think that the seller is a very important element because the seller is the one who's fulfilling the orders. But if you're going to take money from a seller, a percentage of their sales, you are then therefore saying as a platform that you endorse said seller. And when push comes to shove, you're going to be the one taking the brunt of the blame because, at a job, at any job, when the cashier messes up, yeah, maybe the cashier gets fired or whatever. But if it's a bad enough mess up, the higher ups were going to hear about it, And so it's just, I maybe that's a bad analogy, but
No, like I agree with you. I hope it gets cleaned up too. It's just I guess the only point I was trying to make is like I am never gonna be a gambler or like a patron of like a whatnot type platform ever. But
yeah,
I
no, neither
also
am I
don't
either. Right.
yeah, but I also don't like see myself as like above somebody that might want to gamble. Like, dude,
No, but
as
that's the thing. That's my biggest thing is I personally, that's why I'm so mad about it, is that I think that the people who want to have that experience should be able to have it in a safe place and not have to have this question. And honestly, it would be easy to do that if you could have a little bit of like confidence behind your platform, I guess. Or
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know. So no, I think we do agree with each other on this. I think we were just seeing things differently, which is what's great about the podcast.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't want people to get scammed. Definitely have done business before where like doing the right thing isn't always the most painless thing, but overall, like it's what you got to do to maintain your reputation in business and things like that. So I'm all for like doing business with good principles, not lying, not stealing, scamming, all that sort of stuff. Like, yeah, definitely not a fan of that. I mean, but dude, like you watch these sports card show vlogs or whatever, like there's this one guy and he pulls up and it's like literally like one of those roulette things and he'll put a big card in the middle and be like, "Okay, you get one spin, pick your number, if you land it, you get the card." And people will just $50, $50, $50, 50 at a time to try to win like some big Brady card or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't get it, but like I will never I'll never get that, like
I sell mystery slabs. I sell mystery slabs on eBay. It's one of my best reoccurring slabs. So like I sell mystery packs in person as well. Like I am not above people who buy them. I'm not above people who sell them. I'm not above any of that. That's not what this is about at all. It
well, it's funny
literally,
too, really quick. People are so against mystery packs. What's a pack? A pack is a mystery pack. It's a
yeah,
mystery. You don't know what you're going to get inside. And most of the time, like probably 95 times out of 100, you're not going to pull something out of the pack that makes you more than what you paid for the pack. So it's hilarious to me when people get so mad. "Oh, I spent $50 on a mystery pack and I only got $20 worth of stuff." What would happen if you bought a $150 booster box right now? Sometimes you don't even pull $75 worth of value. So like it's anyways,
no,
sidebar.
I get it. No, I get it. And that's I've always felt that I am not, and that's how I can say that I don't participate in but whatnot breaks. I don't do the bounties and stuff, but I was a streamer for many years and I didn't judge. I didn't feel like as I was selling to people, I hope nobody felt this way because I never felt this way. Hope none of my viewers ever felt like this fool buying from me. No, I legitimately like I understand. I'm thankful. Maybe I wasn't feeling that way because I wasn't scamming people. Maybe if I was like playing the guest energy game and doing, I would be feeling that way a little bit more, and I'd be like, this fool, this loser, I'm just taking his money here. He keeps bidding more and more. What an idiot. Like, and I'm telling him. And then the worst thing is like these streams, they gaslight people. They're like, when someone says, "Hey, that looks a little fishy. That looks like it could be a reseal." The streamer will often gaslight in the chat will and be like, "Huh, look at this virgin, this dude here. He doesn't. Yeah, he thinks it's resealed. Like this guy has time. This guy, he's got a Ferrari out back, and you think he has time to reseal your Darkness Ablaze?"
Yeah, yeah.
It's just, and then the person is just getting gaslit, there, and they're just getting fuming at that point. So yeah, I mean, I think that we've beaten it enough. We've talked about it enough. Like I've aired out my grievances. I didn't really have all the piss and vinegar that I had yesterday when we were going to do this pod. Shout out to Nick for saving the podcast by having us do it. It was going to be a much different vibe yesterday than it was going to be today, but he had a last minute situation that we had to change it to today. So I'm glad that happened because I was filled with piss and vinegar yesterday, guys. I don't know if you believe
Now
it.
you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt, ready to go get some tempura. So
Yeah,
look
it's a
at
totally
how
different.
things have changed.
Yeah, it's 24 hours can change a lot. You know what I mean? But I do think that overall, while I think that they are predatory as they exist now, I think that I want to have that view of them in the future that they could get better and be what they should be. The gold of the hobby that allows this safe place for the gamblers, the instant gratification folks, the folks who literally just have $30 in their account that they have from tips from that night, and they already paid their rent, they already did got their food and whatever they need for the week, but they just have extra $30 and they want to spend 20-30 bucks right then, right there on their phone. I want those people to be able to safely go and do that and not have these YouTube channels saying, "What are you doing? You're getting taken advantage of and you're just being railroaded." Because honestly, I don't like seeing that either. But I don't like the people getting taken advantage of either. So it's kind of like I would like both things to not happen. So until we get to that point, I guess that's my stance on it. So I don't feel comfortable having my brand on Whatnot right now. That's
Yeah,
just
no,
me.
that's totally. I'm sure a lot. If there was more traditional or institutional money attached to Whatnot, I imagine they'd probably not be happy with what's going on right now. And I'm sure a lot of people, don't want their brands associated with things like that. So we'll
That's
see what
why I walked
happens.
away. I didn't want to give them 10% or 12% of my earnings anymore because I couldn't agree. And so like it was about me not wanting to support a company that I didn't agree with what it was doing, basically. So it
That's
you know
fair.
there are times where I think that I make the wrong decision because of ethics or morals that I may have this illusion of being on this like pedestal that I put myself on sometimes. It's happened in life many times, and I feel like
I
this is definitely one of those
I
times with
don't
Whatnot.
I don't necessarily think that you like. I don't think you. It wasn't necessarily that you did the wrong thing. I think it might have just been like how you went about it, because you don't need to like fall on the sword to do the right thing, right? Like you were doing the right thing, you weren't scamming people, and because of that, in a lot of cases, financially, like it just didn't make much sense. And then on top of that, it's tough. Like, yo, I'm over here doing the right thing, and all these people not doing the right thing are making more money than me, and I'm busting butt over here struggling. Like that totally makes sense. But at the same time, like you had built a huge following, you had built a huge platform on that app, and that is something that can be leveraged. And I think that if you might have handled it slightly different, that you could have potentially gotten more out of it than just maybe burning the bridge. But I understand why you did it. Like I get it,
I will say the one thing I will absolutely say I dropped the ball on that I feel a little bit of regret is like you said, I think I could have handled the transition a little better. I think when I left the platform, after that, I had the feeling of elation of leaving. I was so happy about it. The thought of doing a final stream was like, or a final week of streams or anything was just kind of like, I couldn't do it. I said in my videos that I was leaving whatnot that I was going to do a final stream saying to all my followers saying hello, goodbye on the platform, explaining myself. I never did that stream. And so like I had 300, 400 follows on that stream that I just let expire on whatnot because after when it push came to shove, I was really just done with it. I was so and that was something that I left on the table that I can now look back on and like objectively say I should have done that more and I probably could have transferred over a lot of those people over to my YouTube or wherever I was going to sell on next or whatever my plans were. But you know, at the time I was really done with it. And so I think that mentally it was more important for me to do that than to try to capture the 200 or 300 people that were like favorited on my stream. And so I let that stream expire. I could technically go and sell on whatnot right now, though. So I mean, I didn't actually burn any bridges, not a single bridge besides me saying outwardly things about the platform that they're never going to love me again. I've been very loud and proud, and I was this way in the Discord. I was a black sheep in the Discord. I would be one of the two people. And shout out to Ninetales Trading because he's always been a guy on the app who's been right there alongside me in the Discord and saying things in his lives. He would just counter stream like I would when these things were being sold a month early and being like, why are you guys letting these streamers take advantage of you like this? He'd be very outspoken. So he was recently on a video that was featured on, I think, Rattle's channel. And I recognize him because he was literally one of the first people on Whatnot with me, the OGs, and I will vouch for Ninetales. Like that guy, I know him on as a streamer. He has always been a stand-up dude. So like that was cool to see him on that, I guess. But it's just like, you know, it's just one of those things that I was done with it. So that's where I agree with you. I don't think I handled the transition as well as I could have, but maybe you're right. Maybe it was for the best for my brand because it's like, yeah, I legitimately was just getting angry watching some of the bigger streams. Now I know they were literally scamming people, so I had right to be angry watching this, I think. As a seller on the platform, I was even more angry, you know, someone trying to do it right. So it is what it is, but I don't really miss it though at that point. I miss the days when I could literally open a booster box when the market was just so crazy and I could just put a pack of Vivid Voltage up and literally just throw it up for 99 cents and people were gonna pay like $10, $12 on it. No bounty, no nothing. It's just they can't get Vivid Voltage in their their target, so they want it. So those are the days I really miss is when it was that easy, but it ain't easy mode like that anymore. Now it's just like light easy mode, only a little bit easy mode.
Yeah, those days might come back, man. Fingers crossed for you.
Shout out to Alex and Nostalgianomics putting out a bunch of great live streams. If I hang out enough in his stream, I might feel that way too long enough, you know,
Yeah, for
about
real.
modern.
I mean, he seems to have a good time doing his box breaks and stuff like that.
Oh, dude, he's killing it. Yeah. He we had a phone call, like a video call before he started doing box breaks. He was really concerned about box breaks before he started. I don't know if he led on to this or anything, but I don't know if he wants me to say this, but sorry, Alex. He was really concerned about doing box breaks on his channel because it's not his brand. And he was really, really concerned with going away from his brand and like opening product rather than hoarding it in sealed. And also he was really concerned with how people would like think buying from him. He's like, why are people gonna trust buying from me? How can I do things the most transparent so that people won't feel? I was like, dude, first of all, people aren't gonna feel like you're scamming them. They're gonna be happy that they're able to buy from you. They're your fans. They want to buy from you. And so like they're gonna just look forward to the experience because it's you. They're not even gonna think about that. But secondly, yeah, you could do things, I just told him put it on the screen and all the basic things, you know, little tips and tricks. But he was really against it. And honestly, I think he's done really good with it. And it's the community he's been building over there has been really good. I was just trolling him about his live chats with like his investing thing. Cause like I've been to a couple of those recently, and if I spend enough time in that, even I'll start getting bullish about Pokemon, you know. So and you got to
Yeah,
worry when the old card shop's bullish.
yeah, it's yeah, people are definitely quite excited about the hobby and the future of modern sealed over there. I mean, I hope they're right, like that means that everything's doing really good. Demand is strong. They're not overprinting, all that sort of stuff. So, fingers crossed. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm always on the edge of just absolutely losing my mind about it. So I don't know. I try not to think about it too much anymore. Try to just like hedge my risk, not be like too overexposed and things like that. But at the end of the day, like we can't control anything at this point. Pokemon's gonna do what Pokemon's gonna do. The market's gonna do what the market's gonna do, and I'm happy to be along for the ride. I guess at least current time.
We have a visitor.
Okay, Miss Kitty or something.
She
What's
was
the guy?
making some noise, so if you saw me looking down, she was just wanting attention. Sorry.
Gotcha. No, I totally understand, but yeah, man, you gonna snag some grub with your gal or what?
I think that's probably what's in the cards for me. All this looking at food and ramen and whatever soup and delicious tempura that they're having over in Japan is making me a little bit hungry even thinking about it. And it was 2 hours ago or however long this has been going, I was getting hungry, and I'm even more hungry now. So I think that sounds like a good idea. If you have any more, last minute thoughts to throw out, feel free. I think we've pretty much covered the topics that I wanted to cover today, though.
No, I think we're good. Appreciate everybody if you've made it this far. If you've made it to the cat, drop a cat emoji in the comments or
Yeah, put a
something like
cat in the
that.
comments if you made it
Yeah,
all the way down to the cat.
that lets us know that you're a real one. So we'll see.
Yeah, and if you want us to talk about anything in particular on the next podcast, drop that in the comments. I'm happy to, look at some of those. I can't guarantee I will oblige. The cat wants to be on the podcast, though, apparently. But I will read
Yeah.
the comments and I will take them into consideration. I love reading your guys' comments. So thank you again for everything. And yeah, that being said, I think my cat wants attention. She's saying that very loudly right now.
You got to get cat cam. You got to get a third camera on the cat for the
It's
next
on her
one.
collar because she doesn't stay in one place long enough.
Oh,
Actually,
like a
she doesn't even wear a
GoPro.
collar. She's an
Yeah, I
indoor
mean,
kitty.
my girlfriend and I have joked about getting a GoPro to put on her cat because she's kind of an outdoor cat, just to kind of see where she goes and what happens during the day. But yeah,
That would be wild. Okay, guys, thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.
all right. Thanks, folks.